Warriors Into the Wild by Aaron Hunter. Chapter 3, Part 3. Longtail tumbled away from him. Rusty scrambled to his paws and looked around. Longtail was crouching 3 tail lengths away, and dangling from Longtail's mouth, Rusty saw his collar, mangled and broken. At once Bluestar leapt down from the high rock and silenced a noisy crowd with a thunderous caterwaul. Rusty and Longtail remained fixed to the spot, gasping for breath. Clumps of fur hung from their ruffled coats. Rusty could feel his cut stinging above his eye. Longtail's left ear was badly torn, and blood dripped down his lean shoulders onto the dusty ground. They stared at each other, their hostility not yet spent. Bluestar stepped forward and took the collar from Longtail. She placed it on the ground in front of her and meowed, "The newcomer has lost his two-leg collar in a battle for his honor. StarClan has spoken its approval. This cat has been released from the hold of his two-leg owners and is free to join ThunderClan as an apprentice." Rusty looked at Bluestar and solemnly nodded his acceptance. He stood up and stepped forward into a shaft of sunshine, welcoming the warmth on his sore muscles. The pool of light blazed bright on his orange pelt, making his fur glow. Rusty lifted his head proudly and looked at the cats that surrounded him. This time no cat argued or jeered. He had shown himself to be a worthy opponent in battle. Bluestar approached Rusty and placed the shredded collar on the ground in front of him, and touched his ear gently with her nose. "You look like a brand of fire in this sunlight," she murmured. Her eyes flashed briefly as if her words had more meaning to her than Rusty knew. "You have fought well." Then she turned to the clan and announced, "From this day forward, until he has earned his warrior name, this apprentice will be called Firepaw, in honor of his flame-colored coat." Then she stepped back and, with the other cats, waited silently for his next move. Without hesitating, Rusty turned and kicked dust and grass over his collar, as though burying his dirt. Longtail growled and limped out of the clearing toward a fern-shaded corner. The cats split into groups, murmuring to each other excitedly. "Hey, Firepaw!" Rusty heard Graypaw's friendly voice behind him. Firepaw! A thrill of pride surged through him at the sound of his new name. He turned to greet the gray apprentice with a welcoming sniff. "Great fight, Firepaw," meowed Graypaw, "especially for a kitty pet. Longtail is a warrior, although he only finished his training 2 moons ago. That scar you left on his ear won't let him forget you in a hurry. You spoiled his good looks, that's for sure." "Thanks, Graypaw," Firepaw replied. "He put up quite a fight, though." He licked his front paw and began to wipe the clean, deep scratch that stung above his eye. As he washed, he heard his new name again, echoing among the meows of the cats. "Firepaw! Hey, Firepaw! Welcome, young Firepaw." Firepaw closed his eyes for a moment and let the voices wash over him. "Good name, too," Graypaw mewed approvingly, jolting him awake. Firepaw looked around. Where did Longtail creep off to? "I think he was heading toward Spotted Leaf's den." Graypaw tipped his head toward the fern-enclosed corner Longtail had disappeared into. "She's our medicine cat. Not bad-looking, either. Younger, and a lot prettier than most." A low growl next to the 2 cats stopped Graypaw mid-speech. They had both turned, and Firepaw recognized the powerful gray tabby cat who had sat behind Graypaw earlier. "Darkstripe," mewed Graypaw, dipping his head respectfully. The sleek Tom looked at Firepaw for a moment. "Lucky your collar snapped when it did. Longtail is a young warrior, but I can't imagine him being beaten by a kitty pet." He spat the word kitty pet scornfully, then turned away and stalked off. "Now Darkstripe," Graypaw hissed to Firepaw under his breath, "is neither young nor pretty." Firepaw was about to agree with his new friend when he was interrupted by a warning yowl from an old gray cat sitting at the edge of the clearing. "Small Ear smells trouble," Graypaw meowed, immediately alert. Firepaw barely had time to look around before a young cat crashed through the bushes and into the camp. He was skinny, and apart from the white tip of his long, thin tail, jet black from head to toe. Firepaw gasped. "That's Ravenpaw. Why is he alone? Where's Tigerclaw?" Firepaw looked at Ravenpaw staggering across the floor of the clearing. He was panting heavily. His coat was ruffled and dusty, and his eyes were wild with fear. "Who are Ravenpaw and Tigerclaw?" Firepaw whispered to Graypaw as several other cats raced past him to greet the new arrival. "Ravenpaw's an apprentice. Tigerclaw's his mentor," Graypaw explained quickly. "Ravenpaw went out with Tigerclaw and Redtail at sunrise on a mission against RiverClan. The lucky furball." "Redtail?" Firepaw echoed, thoroughly confused by all these names. "Bluestar's deputy," hissed Graypaw. "But why on earth has Ravenpaw come back alone?" he added to himself. He lifted his head to listen as Blue Star stepped forward. Ravenpaw, the she-cat, spoke calmly, but a look of worry clouded her blue eyes. The other cats drew back, curling their lips with anxiety. What has happened? Blue Star jumped under the high rock and looked down at the trembling cat. Speak, Ravenpaw! Ravenpaw was still struggling for breath, and his sides heaved fitfully while the dust around him turned red with blood, and still he managed to scramble up onto the high rock and stand beside Blue Star. He turned to the crowd of eager faces that surrounded him and summoned enough breath to declare, "Redtail is dead."